All right, we'll jump right into it. Welcome His Glory family to His Story. I am your host, Kelly Hansen, and today we got a big one. We caught him. So excited to invite Dean Cain. He'll be joining us. He is an American actor, outspoken patriot. He played Clark Kent, Superman in the TV series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Cain was the host of Ripley's Believe It or Not and appeared in the sports drama series Hit the Floor. Dean is a father, loves Jesus. Dean, thank you for joining us today. How's Vegas treating you?
For living in Sin City, you'd think it'd be awful, but Las Vegas is actually amazing. It is the entertainment capital of the world, and no, I mean nobody who lives in Las Vegas is like on the strip running around doing all that madness. It's there for shows and entertainment and when friends and family come in. But the outside areas are fantastic, small communities, lovely people, great neighborhoods, a million restaurants. Everything is easy here, a lot more simple. It simplified my life a ton from living in California.
Yeah, I bet. And how often do you have friends coming out there, maybe even staying on the strip, but obviously they want to see you? Do you head into the strip and
On
spend time?
occasion, on occasion. But the great thing is everybody's here for a reason. They've come in to see a show. They've come in to have a convention or meetings or this or that. And so they have plans. So they come in, they're like, hey, come over and meet for a drink and we'll grab a cup of coffee or this, that, or just chat. So you get to see them. They come in. There's a million places for them to stay. They don't have to stay at your house all the time. There's all kinds of things like that that make it wonderful. When I lived in Malibu, California, friends would call me up and go, hey, Dean, I'm in LA. And I'm like, where are you? Downtown. Let's have dinner at 8. And I'm like, do you realize what it would be for me to have dinner at 8 o'clock in the evening downtown? That's a 5 hour commitment, 7 hour commitment. Here it's an hour. It's a 30-minute drive there, 30-minute drive back, piece of cake. Everything is just top notch. It's made life really simple. So I never thought I'd live in Sin City, but I don't partake in that part of it.
Yeah, and I know you're out in Henderson, so it's different. I
Yes.
have a lot of friends who actually grew up there, and they tell me it's so different. It's just like living anywhere else. You're not on the strip. It's not what we think of Vegas. It's real life, people. There's real life happening out there. And it sounds like you've really made a home. You're able to go out and, maybe shoot some rounds because you're out there in the
Oh,
desert.
yes.
So it's like a dream. I'm not going to lie. Anybody stuck here in California, I think we're here for the weather and then probably the weather and maybe the weather. But past that, we could see living the dream anywhere. So past that though, Dean, I do want to talk quite a bit. I told you earlier before we came on, we only got 30 minutes and I want to get through a lot. And
Yes.
so if you can start us off, I want to hear a little bit about your childhood. I've heard some funny, great stories about your mom. I know that she was an actor. I know that your dad was a producer. So tell us a little bit, just give us an insight to what it was like being little Dean as a child.
The middle child. Okay, so my mom is a force of nature. She was raised a military brat. My grandfather was a commander in the Navy. My mom was married, had a kid at 18, had me at 20, but was already divorced, and there was infidelity, so she left, and so I was raised till I was about 3 or 4 years old. Well, 3 years old with my mom and my grandfather and my uncles and that whole bunch on the military base and military housing. And then my mom decides to move to Hollywood with these two little kids, little half Asian kids. Which wasn't a popular thing back then. It was very specific. We were Japanese, but we were like, "Who are the Chinese kids?" I was like, "Who? What Chinese kids?" They're like, "You." Oh, wow. I didn't realize that I looked any different or acted any different. My brother and I looked exactly the same. She meets this out of work actor guy just trying to make it. It turns out to be my dad. He steps in, he marries her, adopts my brother and I. And when we were about 5 years old, when I was 5 years old, my brother was seven, there was a rape and a murder that happened nearby us in an apartment. And we were out playing the next day, these kids, and I don't know if it was a murder, but she was shot, and someone was, and so we were looking. They were playing, cops and robbers as you played as little kids. But I, of course, being the youngest, didn't have anything, so I was looking for a stick, and I found something in the little pond, and it turned out to be a weapon, a real weapon. And that day, my mother and father, my dad said, we're out of here," and he moved us out to Malibu, California, where we grew up at Paradise Cove, in a little trailer park that turned out to be the greatest childhood ever. We grew up kids everywhere. That it's cliche, but yes, it was get out of the house, get back here before the lights are on, before the street lights come on. We don't have street lights, but before it's dark. And we were at the beach. We'd walk down to the beach. We were surfing. We were climbing trees. We were running around playing sports and riding our bikes and skateboarding and all that stuff in that incredible Malibu weather. And then I grew up with kids that, were in the business. Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Holly Robinson, all of these kids, Sean Penn, Chris Penn, the Penns in my family were like best friends. So I grew up around all of that. So to say I had an idyllic childhood would be an understatement. It was amazing back then. It's different now. Money and regulations and rules and taxes have gotten very different. But I mean, I used to go ride my horse bareback on the beach from our house. And there'd be plenty of people with horses riding bareback and running around. And now you can't do anything.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And we talked about it a little bit before too. It's just all the regulations have come down and really ruined this state. And to be honest with you, Dean, my husband and I are here with our four boys, and we both serve in our community because we are like, no, you're not going to win. You're not going to take over this beautiful state. It's incredible. Stop ruining it. But yeah, that is a childhood. I had a very similar childhood that a lot of people don't understand. It is just, and like you said, we took it for granted. We didn't know how beautiful it was. And so has it looked different even being in Vegas? Have you felt like it's a lot different for people raising kids out in Vegas versus kind of what you saw your childhood was like in California?
I don't know if it's necessarily because it's Vegas, but yeah, it is different. Certainly, the
Yeah.
times are different with the kids and everything that they have now. I'm also a deputy sheriff. I'm a sworn deputy sheriff in Frederick County, Virginia. I deal with online predators and things of that nature as well. And so when our kids now, we used to go. You couldn't even barely get on the phone because my dad wouldn't let me be on the phone much. You'd have to go see your friends. You'd have to go talk to them. You'd have to be around them. You'd have to go out and be around. Now with the smartphones and the computers and the video games and the things, kids are tending to be so much more cloistered and sheltered in that sense. So it's very different there. But I don't know if that's specific to Las Vegas at all. I think there's neighborhoods. I see kids running around my neighborhood all the time, which is great. I don't yell at them. Get off my lawn. I don't do that.
Yeah, give it a few more years, right?
Sit out there with a paintball gun and just pep, 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 pep. So no, I don't. That's it's a neighborhood just the same. It's wonderful. This is a wonderful neighborhood that I live in. But I don't think it's specifically because of being in Vegas versus California. My little goddaughter and my niece are growing up in California, in Malibu and in Westlake Village, and they don't go out and just play with their friends. They got to arrange a play date. They got to go here and do things. It's just a different time, and I think it's a crime in that sense. But that the world changes, we change and adapt alongside it. I just remember what an absolute joy it was as a young one growing up, and I think that gave us a little something extra that maybe these kids will be that they missed out on.
I agree. I think there's a piece of their childhood that they're not getting that we all got. And I agree with you. It has nothing to do with whether you're in Vegas or California. We're seeing a difference here in our kids as well. And so we're trying to push for that. We want to keep them little kids and let them have that childhood that I had in the 80s, but it does look a lot different. And the technology is wonderful for incredible reasons. We all see that. Especially you see that in Hollywood and everything that you guys have been able to do now with technology in these movies. But I want to go back to actually, you attended Princeton University and you were so I'm a huge football fan. Just got to get that out there right now.
Yes.
I'm a Chargers girl though. So,
You guys are going to be good this year.
yeah, I sure hope so. Yeah, with the draft and everything, we're hoping we get a little bit better. But
You will.
you were a free safety on the football team there in Princeton, and then you also got drafted. So tell me a little bit about that time in your life, and then yeah, exactly.
Buffalo Bills, baby.
Bills, baby, come on.
So when you go to college, so much of when you're young, you're wrapped up in this image of who you think you are. And I was always an athlete and a scholar, if you will. Going to Princeton, I wasn't the top of the charts when I got to Princeton. It was very difficult for me academically, but by the end, it was very easy. And that same notion, football was something I always did. I was I thought of myself as an athlete. You just do and I still think of myself as an athlete first, but you get humbled, of course, in anything that you do. And when I was 22 years old, I graduated college, got to the NFL, got injured within like 3 months. The two things I always did well, go to school and play athletics, were over. And it was a stunning, absolutely humbling experience. You're like, wait a minute. I thought I was Dean Cain, the football player, or the athlete, or this, and now who am I? I'm some other guy who wants to go try to, get into film and acting. So I'm going to have to stand with seven other dudes in front of a camera, take our shirts off, and eat Doritos and pretend we're at a party and try to get a job. You know what I mean? It's really
Sounds pretty good.
humiliating and humbling. You're like, what am I doing? And, I left the NFL, I left Princeton, and now I'm standing in front of a camera with four dudes acting like we're buddies with our shirts off, eating Doritos. I don't think I got one of those commercials. Whatever. But it's like,
I'll have to
it's
go
very
back and take those now.
Pardon me.
I'll have to go back and look for those now.
I did like 40 commercials. It's a
Yeah.
great way to make a living trying to figure out what I was going to do. But
Yeah.
you really who you are especially when you're younger and you identify as an athlete or this or that, you end up realizing you're so much more as life comes in. My greatest role, and I have it for everything I do, is father. That is my number one thing, father. And then as a son, and and I'm not married, so I would husband would be up there, and that would be it. But I, and servant of God as best I can. And those are the things that are important to me. Faith, family, country, I really live and breathe that. But it wasn't, my biological dad I never knew, but my dad who adopted me, his name is Christopher Cain. It's also my son's name to honor my father. He taught me so many wonderful, wonderful things about um, morals and clarity and things that I might not have gotten in Malibu otherwise. And people wonder why I have that base, and it's because of my father.
Wow. That's incredible. Good job, Dad. And
He's
also
good.
how great that he was able to teach you now that you have a son, how to be a father. And like I said, I've seen many interviews with you and you're talking about your son and how much you love him. And that relationship is so important to you. And I honor that. I praise that. I'm proud of that, where you actually make that your priority number one, because people see you as this big actor and that's all that matters is just making money and acting. And no, you got your priorities straight. So that's amazing. I want to talk more about that. We're going to go to commercial. I want to talk a little bit about your season because you downplayed it. And I want people to know he was not just an athlete, an incredible athlete, and probably absolutely still is. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere with Dean Cain. See you soon. Okay, perfect. Okay, and like you said, we don't need to actually wait for any commercials. We're going to jump right back into
I'm
it.
a professional. I've done it before.
Let's do it. If you could stay in that accent for the rest of the interview, I'd appreciate it.
I need a couple glasses of wine to keep that one up.
Yeah, exactly. Go grab them. Do it. Ben, we good to go? Okay. Okay. All right. Welcome back to His Story. You guys, we are having a great conversation with Dean Cain. And Dean, before we left, you talked and you downplayed what an athlete you were. I mean, obviously, you got on as a free agent with the Buffalo Bills, ended up hurting your knee. But during Princeton, I mean, I have the stats because I love stats. But some of the stats for you, that you had 12 interceptions in just 10 games. Then you ended your career with 22 interceptions with only 30. You guys, this is big, okay? If you watch football, you'll know this is big. This is an amazing free safety. So I can understand how having a knee injury after finally, I mean, your dream, you love sports, you're an athlete, that's your identity. You work so hard. I have kids in high school right now. I have kids younger. I know how hard they've already worked towards sports. So to go through college and then to actually be a free agent for the NFL, walk us through kind of what were all the feelings, what were all the feels, if you will, Dean, like getting on the team, and then when everything happened with your knee injury.
Well, it's a weird thing. It's always what you aspire to as a little kid. I mean, you've got four boys, so how many times have you seen? Okay, 5 seconds left, and here we go. And Joe drops back. He's looking. Where does he go? He scrambles. Oh no, the beta. You dream that stuff all the time, and you dream about being in the Super Bowl or playing in the NFL or hitting the end. The absolute top of your profession, and I was lucky in college because you go to a school like Princeton. I broke a number of NCAA records for interceptions. And thank you for mentioning those. You were dead on. That was perfect. Both of those NCAA records still hold, by the way.
Mm.
They do per game averages. Yes, yes, yes. And so Jason Garrett was my quarterback when I was in college, and he ended up in the NFL for a decade as a player, more than a decade and a half as a player, and another decade as a head coach, and now he's an analyst. So Jason's father was also a scout with the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that was very helpful to me getting to the NFL because his father watched me play every game, and he was like, "This safety guy, this kid has got something," and thought I could have a shot in the NFL. And Buffalo listened to him. I got to Buffalo. I felt very comfortable. Weird thing was college. The way we did our college stuff, we worked. Coach Verbit, I'm going to throw you under the bus now, but I think he would work us too hard in practice time, so our legs, I didn't feel fresh as a daisy on game day. And I remember in high school being able to feel like I could run with my knees up above above my head because I had so much energy. And I remember being tired a lot of the time in college. Well, they trained differently at Buffalo. They trained things differently, and things were done differently because you have you've turned into a man ostensibly you're supposed to have. And so they treated you like an adult, which I appreciated. And it was sort of just set up, even their whole defensive system, everything about it. I actually felt more comfortable in the NFL than I did in college. I was like, ah, and daddy's home. So this
Yeah.
is where I belong. And then I got hurt and it was a shocker, but I didn't believe it. It doesn't make sense. So I was like, well, I'll just get surgery and I'll get better. I'll come back and I'll come back better and stronger. And here we go. Because, never say die attitude. And then it wasn't until I was like on the second or third year of Lois and Clark playing Superman that I realized, hey, I'm never going to go back to the NFL. I'm done. I didn't, because you hang on to it. So I just didn't believe it was really over. I thought somewhere in the back of my mind, I might just get a shot to come back. I don't, because it helps to be not so smart sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where I
I
was.
understand that. Yeah.
But it was a weird transition to have to start becoming an actor after being this, lauded athlete. And that's why I look at some of the guys coming out now out of college and things, and they get that NIL money, and that's great. But who you are as a person, that
Mm.
core of who you are to your family and to your friends, to your God, that's the one, that's the person, that's the soul, that's what's going to live beyond all of these accolades, all of these things, because we all fail. We all get to some place and then we all go someplace else.
Yeah.
You can't stay on top forever. You can't be Michael Jordan forever. You can't be this or that. There's ups and downs, and we're all very, very human and all very fallible, and we need to be aware of that and have that humility. I've certainly learned that.
And hey, it may not feel good in the time, but it's actually what makes life enjoyable is going through those periods of time where you're maybe on a high, you're on a low, you're back on a high, you're doing different things, you're all over the place. You've had a fun life. I mean, you were
It's still
able to,
going.
yeah,
Still going.
is it? Oh, okay, good. Phew. No, but yeah, still, and so much more to come. Exactly.
Yes.
And I kind of want to talk about that because you were in Hollywood. Luckily, when you found out you weren't going back to the NFL, you were stinking Superman. Okay. So I think you were probably feeling pretty good in your career as an actor, I would think at that point. And so maybe it didn't hurt as much as if, you were a struggling actor thinking you were going back to the NFL. But I want to talk about, you were at your height in Hollywood. You were on a lot. You had maybe some ideas of who you were, who Hollywood was, maybe some governmental, political ideas. And then you had a shift where I want to say, and I don't know if necessarily, that's what I want to get to. Were you blacklisted when you came out and you started to maybe change some of your political views, some of your faith-based acting started to happen and producing and writing? What was that period like for you?
Well, funny thing is what happened was my son was born in the year 2000. And when my son was born, my whole life changed. I ended up having to fight a custodial battle with his mother over where and what, how much work I did, where I could go. I had to turn down Band of Brothers. I had to turn down all sorts of other different projects because I couldn't travel. I'd lose custody of my son. And there was no question in my mind. I remember having this conversation with my attorney, my family law attorney at the time. And California is not real wonderful to fathers. That's actually probably where I started getting interested in politics. I had my views, but this is probably where I realized the system needs some changing. Is that I had to fight so hard, to spend $1.5 million in legal fees just to win joint custody of my son. I was absolutely severely hampered at anything I did and penalized for the work that I would do, even though I was the only one working. It was some really ridiculous, unbelievable hoops I had to jump through. And my son lives with me now. He's going to be 25 in a week. He's my favorite human being. I love this kid more than anything. We're going to co-direct a movie together later this in about 2 months. So it's worked out brilliantly, but I had to change everything. So I changed my career in that sense. But I also started to speak out more because I would see what I thought was something that was wrong and I would speak up about it. Um, Blacklisted. So Hollywood doesn't have a blacklist, but it's just quiet. That's
Yeah.
quiet. When you want to say, there's nobody, they're not brave in saying that. They wouldn't say, listen, I hate your political views, so I'm not going to hire you. I would understand that. I could say, all right, well, I get that, but that's ridiculous because I'd hire people whose political views I don't agree with. I'd work with Rob Reiner in a heartbeat. He's a very good director. I don't like his political views at all. Robert De Niro, no, don't like him. So I never my feelings and my positions hadn't been any different. I just hadn't voiced them. And as you're a young person, you're still figuring out what do I believe? What am I thinking? And there's that saying, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. And if
Uh-huh.
you have, if you're not a conservative when you're older, you have no brain. Thank you. Because it's true.
I
And
love
there's a
that.
lot to that. But all the things that I learned as an athlete really translate to life. Hard work, teamwork, integrity. These things are universal and they go and they're so important. That's why I like making movies, sports movies about life and things of that nature. It's a big metaphor for life. And so I don't think I was blacklisted so much as it was, hey, I love this project. I want to be on this. They're like, yeah, they're not interested.
Mhm.
It's that sort of a thing that you get because there weren't a whole lot of decision makers in Hollywood, and for me to join the police force, for me to be on the board of directors for the NRA, for me to want to make family movies or Christian movies or speak about things like, oh my gosh, we don't need him. We'll take somebody else, and I'm sure it happens. But they're cowards in Hollywood. No one's ever said it to my face. I would
Yeah.
respect them a little more, but I wouldn't like them anymore.
Yeah, and you brought up Band of Brothers. We actually had Neil McDonough on here, and
Neil.
yeah, we were talking about kind of that same story, and that was his thing too. It went quiet. Like, what happened? And I know for him, his story is maybe a little bit more deep into how much he was semi blacklisted from Hollywood. But I
Well, he
love to hear
wouldn't kiss another woman on camera. Oh my gosh,
exactly.
what a sh
I know. Which I told him my husband and I talk about it all the time. We're like, it's still kissing someone else. I don't think my kids would be too stoked if I was on kissing another man. I think they'd go beat him up, to be honest with you. Um,
And you got four.
exactly. Yeah. And
Zoom,
so,
zoom, zoom, zoom.
oh yeah, they'd be jumping in there. Don't you worry. But you actually have the capability now where you've always liked to write. I know you were watching your dad produce. You became an actor yourself without much training, I've heard in the past, right? You did some classes, but mainly just was being yourself and you were acting. So what's your favorite part? And you have to pick one. I'm sorry. I know you've said you like them all, but what is your favorite aspect of the job? Would it be the acting, the writing, the
Oh,
producing?
if I had to pick one, I would probably say directing.
Mhm.
Because, well, writing and directing, I guess, is sort of a combo. Storytelling,
Yeah.
to be able to tell the story. There's something so wonderful about it. I have a movie coming out June 6th called Little Angels. And I wrote it, produced it, directed it, starred in it, did everything. Love it. It's my baby. If you don't like the movie or something about the movie, it's my fault. And if you're like, that's a bad cut, that's this, the music, my fault. I made every decision on it. And there's something about it that's so wonderful when you see it affect people. So a couple of our producers were down in Eswatini in Africa just recently, which used to be Swaziland, way down just above South Africa over to the east. and they were down there at an orphanage and doing all this stuff with these orphans and wonderful stuff. But they wanted some sort of entertainment, and they happened to have a copy of the film, which isn't out until June 6th, and they showed it for the kids. At the end, the big moment at the end where everything goes, the place went bananas. Like the kids were up in their chairs and screaming and going nuts. And when you can do that, affect people, but then make them cry, make them feel something, teach them something, it's a great feeling. So if I had to just pick one aspect, I would say be a storyteller. I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, if I really believed in someone else's writing or something that they wrote, of course, but directing is that's the storyteller. That's the greatest. So that's what my dad did forever, and it's what I got to do just on Little Angels, and I'll do it again on this film Holy One that my son will co-direct with me, and we'll just have a blast.
Well, and I love what you're saying because even if you write a story, when you send it over to the producer, they're going to change it quite a bit. They're
Bye
picking,
bye.
yeah, they're changing it throughout. They're telling their own story just with the basis of that story. So
Of
I
course.
bet that would be the best part. So I want to hear before we run out of time a little bit more about Little Angels. Tell us, I know it's coming out June 6th. It's just in a couple days. So what is the story about?
So the story is a very imperfect person, a head football coach, like a Nick Saban type,
Mm.
national champion many times over, brash, says a lot of harsh things and blah blah blah, and he has colorful personality, if you will. Well, he gets in trouble for a girl kicker misses an extra point in the national championship. It was already over; it didn't matter, and he says something about she's a soccer player. We're in America, and soccer's for girls, so he gets suspended, and he makes a lot of money, but in order to keep that money and keep his job, he has to go coach these under 13-year-old girl soccer players. He hates soccer, hates kids. And through working with them, learns to love them, love their heart, their grit, their determination, and he becomes a better person. And I won't tell you what happens at the end, but it's very exciting.
Yeah. And you stand up and you cheer is what we heard. So
Guys, that's what they did in Eswatini.
yeah. Oh, I love it. And I know that you have so much more coming out. So where can people what's the best way to follow you? Is it Instagram? Is it X? I mean, where can we get more information about everything that you're going to be doing?
X is probably my best. I mean, I'm not as good on Instagram. X, I'm at Real Dean Kane. And on Instagram, I'm at Deuces, the word spelled out, Deuces 1966. I can explain that later. But that is my first year. And I just created a Facebook account so that I could do some things through Meta and that. But I think I'm at Actor Dean Kane. So I made
Okay.
a choice there. But that's where you can find me, find out what's going on. Please check out Little Angels June 6th. It's got a little bit of faith in it. It's got a lot of family and a lot of fun.
Oh, we need more of that. We need so much more of that. Well, thank you so much, Dean, for being with us. Thank you for standing up for your faith. Thank you for standing up for your political views. Honestly, here in California, especially, we need more people like you standing up and being a good example. So appreciate you being with us today.
I'm honored, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. And His Glory family, thanks for being with us today. We